be talking with Kevin Clark, who is Emmy Award-winning writer, director and producer, who has spent years in the entertainment industry. But instead of following the traditional path, he chose to challenge one of the most powerful industries in the world, that's social media. As the co-founder of Blessn app, he has helped lead a movement to transform how we connect, shifting the focus from negativity and isolation to faith, positivity, and meaningful human connection. Kevin represents a new kind of challenger entrepreneur, someone who doesn't just build businesses for profit, but creates purpose-driven platforms like the Blessn app to reshape culture and make a real impact on how people connect and live. This is more than a business, it's a purpose-driven entrepreneurship. So to give us an insight into his real life, we're delighted to be joined by Emmy Award-winning writer, director, producer, and co-founder of the Blessn app, Kevin Clark. Kevin, thanks so much for doing us. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kevin. It's a pleasure to have you. Kevin, I'd love to get to the very beginning of your story. Take us all the way back. What was your childhood like growing up?
Well, I grew up in the middle of America in Oklahoma, and we're very, conservative, faith-driven part of the country. Then I moved out to California to go to USC and do film school, and it's quite a change of pace.
So you went to film school. What was it that enticed you to do that as your career in your future?
I don't know that I had an aha moment, but I grew up in theater as a kid, and I really enjoyed the entertainment industry. Did a handful of things on screen as well, but I really wanted to stay in entertainment. And luckily, my grades were good enough I could get into USC. So my parents said, why don't you move to the West Coast and try this? And I got out here, went to the film school, graduated. And when I got into the film industry, things were very interesting back then. It was all about independent filmmaking, and people were really thriving, telling their stories and kind of launching careers out of nowhere. But that kind of died down, I'd say, in the early 2010s. And just as I was becoming of the age where you would want to launch a film career, it kind of died off, So me and my best friend started opening businesses that were actually not related to film industry stuff at all. That being said, we did produce a TV show, and we did produce some other things, and we had a good stretch there of small projects, and we actually won a few awards. But for the most part, we've really steered more towards businesses focused on community.
One of the awards that you won was a public service announcement on school violence.
Yes.
Give us an insight into how did that project start? Where did you get the idea from, and how did it develop?
Absolutely, yeah. So my best friend and business partner, his name is Gerald. And he came to me one day. He had 2 kids in high school. And I think we just had a very public mass shooting at a high school. And he was very concerned. My kid was only 2 at the time, so it wasn't something that was necessarily on my mind, but it was clearly on his. And as he spoke about it, he was just very passionate, and he's concerned. He's a dad. So he's very concerned about what are the possibilities. And he pitched this idea to me to start doing public service announcements around school shooting. Like, if you see something, say something. I think a lot of kids are probably hesitant to speak up. But it's a good idea to let them know it's something you should do if you have a suspicion. And I think that concept resonated with some Emmy voters. So
Very good indeed. Because school violence, did you study that? Did you go into the cause of school violence? What do you think could be the root of it? Because we see, especially here, we're in Europe, we're in UK and Spain, and we hear a lot about the school shootings in the United States. What do you think is causing this amongst the youngsters?
I think that we're obviously a gun culture, whereas a lot of Europe is not. Or if a country in Europe is a gun culture, it's more hunting related, and it's very regulated. In America, there's at least 1 gun per human being in America. So they're just, they're kind of everywhere. Now, what would go into the mind of a young person deciding to choose violence? I really couldn't tell you that. I've heard everybody, politicians blame movies and, video games. I don't think that is probably valid. I think the problem may have started with Columbine, because it got a lot of attention. And maybe that planted a seed in some young folks' head that, like, if I do this violent thing, I'll get a lot of attention and maybe people will finally understand me. That would be my only guess.
So when you released this public service announcement on schools, how did that process work? Obviously, from having the idea to thinking we're going to release this nationally, how was it actually released and how did people actually see it?
Yeah, that was back prior to everybody cutting the cord. So there was, television. We released it, I think, just prior to the streaming services taking over. So once we got it into one television market, it made it easier for us to get it into other television markets. We put a little of our own business money behind it, but then people really took it and put it on their public service stations, public broadcast. And it just kind of spread.
Give us the idea, what is the process like of being nominated for an Emmy Award? What is it you need to do to be nominated, and what was it like attending and then finally winning it as well?
Well, I do have a confession to make. I didn't attend.
Oh.
So I didn't. I was falling in love with who was about to become my wife. And this is a ridiculous thing to say, but it snowed really heavy that week in the mountains of California. So I bailed on the Emmy Awards. I didn't go. And my best friend and business partner went, and he called me yelling, and he said, "We won. I just gave a thank you speech." And I thought, of course we won. But I was in the mountains with my soon-to-be fiance and wife.
Excellent. Now, you've been involved in the film industry, the TV industry and such things. Can you give our viewers an insight? What is that industry like from your perspective, what you've experienced?
When I first got out of film school, it was an exciting time because back then independent filmmakers were really taking off. That died down a little bit, but I think we're maybe entering a new era of self-finance, self-distribution, which is fantastic news for aspiring filmmakers because you have access now to all the equipment. I mean, the laptop that you and I are talking through has a couple of different editing softwares on it that are fantastic. You could make a movie with your laptop at home now. And then you could take it out and you could even distribute it yourself if you wanted to. If not, there are platforms you could submit and they will distribute for you. So I think we're in a really cool golden era where things are very possible. We're not shooting on film that costs thousands of dollars to buy and, process. It's a very democratized process now. And I think people, if they're thinking about being a filmmaker, I would say skip the short film, just go straight to feature length. Make yourself a real project and see what you can do with it. And I would also highly recommend your first one, you try to keep under $40,000 because you're probably not going to make it back, but you can really get your feet wet.
What advice would you give to that young person today that may be in a crossroads in their life? They think the future and it's such a big wide world out there, they just don't know what they want to do. What advice would you give? You've had so much experience in your own life. What would you tell the young person today watching?
Well, I think my business partner says it best. When you're young, it is time to explore and really figure out if you've got a passion that can become your full-time thing. I think also we're all entering into this new era of AI, and we don't know what that's going to look like in 10 years. I mean, nobody knows. If they say they know, they're lying. We don't know what's coming. So I think really you should, as a young person, if you've got a passion, pursue it. You definitely have time later in life to choose a more conservative, proven path towards, financial stability. I don't think I would even have called myself financially stable till I was in my late 30s. I think it's a time to really explore when you're young.
You've won an Emmy Award. Can you give us an insight into AI? What are your thoughts of how is that changing the world? You've obviously been in media for many, many years, but now we see artificial intelligence. From your perspective, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I look on and kind of optimistic wonder, but also I think I'm fearful, like everybody. This could be something that eliminates a lot of jobs. And I know that the film industry is bracing for that exact thing. There are several studios that have embraced AI, and I believe Ben Affleck was involved even in creating a company that was going to make essentially what they call a gray stage, something you could turn into any set. So that alone is an interesting tool from the perspective of an up-and-coming filmmaker. There's so many possibilities. But also, you just eliminated a lot of jobs with that one product. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but I do know that it is going to come with a downside, which is jobs lost. Hollywood is already reeling. Everybody is they've for years been going to Vancouver and other places to shoot projects. Now, there's almost no shooting in LA at the moment. Everything's gone elsewhere. And I think AI might compound that. Wow. And really rob LA and Southern California of something that we've taken a lot of pride in for decades, which is our film industry.
How do you see that the film industry is changing as well, and the way that people are consuming content? Because when I was growing up, maybe when you were growing up, we had our favorite TV shows and we were very much in common, and it'd be a Saturday evening and we'd all rush home to go and watch our favorite program at the same time, and then on Monday we'd all talk about it together. But there's so many streaming platforms available, of the Netflix and the Amazon Prime and the Apple TV and YouTube and everything else. What do you make of the change of way that people are consuming content now?
It's fascinating. I think you said that very well. I remember when I was a kid, Saturday morning cartoons, and then one of the networks had TGIF here in America, which is They Got Us Friday, and their lineup. And then Friends and Seinfeld on Thursday nights on NBC. That's just gone. And my daughter's 11, and she doesn't know any other world except for the streaming world. So for her, it just makes sense. Like if she wants to watch something, there it is. And I don't know if one's better than the other. What do you think? It's just very different.
I think you're right. It's a different time. I think people want to consume content when they want to consume it rather than waiting for a specific time. And there's so many options. Sometimes you can spend half an hour just going through everything. By the time you found something, you're already half asleep anyway. So. But
I don't know, if you do this where if you finally pick, your attention span is so short that you'll give it 10 minutes. And then you're like, I don't like it. Move on. You really didn't give it a chance to be anything.
Do you know what? That is so true. And I consume a lot of short content, like you say, the 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, because to sit for a film of maybe an hour and a half or 2 hours and such things, it's just a lot of time to consume. But sometimes our minds just want to stay busy and consuming different content. Now, what do you make out of the social media? What is your insight into social media, especially the way that young people is consuming that?
I think it's very concerning. I think I even heard of new lawsuits against some of the bigger companies this morning, because the class action lawsuits, allege that a lot of these bigger platforms have purposefully made them addicting. I don't know what that means, but I think they are also suing for the detrimental effect it can have on a developing person's mind. So a young teenage girl maybe looks online and sees ultra thin people living their best life and compares herself to that, gets depressed. Maybe we all do that. Social media and short form content maybe kind of directs us towards behaving like that. But I personally am more concerned with doom scrolling. I'm sure you're guilty of it, like we all are. I catch myself doing it all the time.
From your perspective, explain, what is doom scrolling for anyone who hasn't heard of it before?
From my perspective, it's that thing where we get a dopamine hit from bad news or content that maybe makes us mad or outraged or, feeling indignation. So I think if you were to ask somebody, hey, do you want to feel terrible right now? They'd say, no, I don't want to feel terrible right now. I'd like to feel happy. But our swiping habits teach the algorithm something else, because I think we're all pausing on negative content. If it bleeds, it leads. And the more you pause on that content, the more of that content you get, which really leads to a real Debbie Downer of a scrolling session. I mean, I've ruined my entire afternoon by going down that rabbit hole. So I think it's having a bad effect on all of us. I really do. I don't think if you asked any American right now if things are going well, I think most Americans would say no. Now, is that perception or reality? It is maybe a combo of both, but I know for a fact that all of us are scrolling in this manner, and we're getting a perception of the world that is extremely negative.
In your opinion, I mean, doom scrolling, what are the psychological effects of that? We're just constantly consuming content. Are we looking at mindless information? Is that affecting us psychologically as well, mentally?
Oh, absolutely. It is. It's having a very detrimental effect on, I think, all of us. I think the internet and social media is where rumors and gossip go to become facts. So I think a lot of people, including myself, have turned off maybe the critical thinking portion of their brains as they doom scroll. Maybe we hear something that we want to believe is true, so we just go ahead and believe it's true. You know, it's confirmation bias, and I think it's cutting us off from one another. And also, frankly, I think it's depressing a lot of people. And I will make myself not consume content at certain times of the day, simply because I don't even want to subject myself to the possibility of some, rumors on the internet darkening my mood. I'm sure you've probably avoided your phone yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the knock-on effect, and it's that feeling as well. But my concern really is the young people of consuming this content, comparing their own life to somebody else's. And what people don't realize is social media is just a snapshot. Someone can show a happy face that they're having the most amazing time in the world, but that's literally just 2 seconds of someone's life. You never really know what's going on inside that person, because people can hide their emotions. More than ever now, we're living in times where people are going through mental health issues as well. What are your thoughts on that, of people going through mental health problems, maybe not sharing it as much and just showing a happy face and smiley face, but really deep down something is going on inside?
Yeah, I think that all of us can be guilty of that too, the facade, right? I think for myself, back in the Facebook times, I only posted the most amazing photos of my life. I did not post the drudgery or the day-to-day. And I think all of us did that. Now we're kind of living in a different era of what you're saying, where people are still making content that is only the facade of their life. And then there's the downside of doom scrolling. Mental health is something that people really, they're not talking about as much as they should, especially for men. Yeah. I think men in America are still a little bit on the stoic side, grin and bear it, take it on the chin or whatever. One of the things that's happening even that could be encouraging, or it could be a disaster, is there is a rise in AI health professionals. So people are actually talking to certain AI chatbots about their mental health concerns. I hope that they've worked out the kinks in that, and that people aren't just getting reassured that their bad behavior is good behavior or whatever. Yeah. But maybe it could encourage people to begin talking about things. I know, growing up in Oklahoma, I don't know how it was where you grew up, but we didn't talk about feelings, period. Yeah. You grin and bear it all day.
And it's interesting now, we've got celebrities, well-known personalities, sports personality. I'm personally a boxing fan, and people like Tyson Fury, the former heavyweight champion of the world as well. He's talking about mental health problems. He's talking about even suicidal thoughts and such things as well. And I think when we see someone with such a huge stature and so vocal and so out loud, and yet there are people like that suffering, that kind of gives hope to other people to say, okay, I can maybe speak out and talk about this as well. But this leads us into something amazing, because most people just talk about the situation. They say, yes, it's difficult, the social media is bad, but you've actually gone out there and proactively done something about it. You've launched this amazing app called Blessn. Why don't you tell our viewers all about it?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I don't know about yourself, but I discovered TikTok during the pandemic lockdown. Yeah. And back then it was very lighthearted. There was no doom scrolling back then. I think since then it's become pretty negative in terms of comparing other lives to our own and the doom scrolling negativity. So one day, I'd say a couple years back, my business partner called me and said, hey, I have an idea for an app. It's going to be social media, but it's going to revolve around faith and community. And most importantly, it's going to encourage people to share positivity with one another, not just, putting on a facade that their own life is great. And he happened to call me as I was really feeling the effects of doom scrolling. So I said, yes, I'm in. Let's do this. And we started developing it. And every time we onboarded people in the beginning, let's say beta testing, we would, tell them this is about community, this is about encouragement and faith. And people took to it. I mean, people loved it. We had thousands of people flock to it quickly. I mean, right out the gate. So I think we tapped into something here. I think people have been ready for this. People have been ready to switch from negative to positive. And people that have faith, like myself, are also very into talking about their faith, sharing scripture. And we're about to launch a new feature, a prayer of the day that you can share with people. And I think the more we can get each other interacting, talking about something like our faith or positive encouragement, I think maybe we have a chance at reversing some of this detrimental effect of social media.
Talk to me about your faith. What does faith mean to you personally?
Yeah, I love that question. I think when I was a young person, it meant one thing. Now that I'm a little older, it's beginning to mean something else. When I was young, I thought that faith meant following the rules really well, making everybody proud. And now I've come to accept I'm very flawed, so is everybody. So it's more, to me, it's about my relationship with God and also accepting that we're called here to encourage one another and be a part of something much bigger than ourselves. And I'm sure you've heard of the blue zones where people live to be in their hundreds.
Yeah.
And they've found repeatedly that it's the people who are in, walking the walk. They have faith in God. And a lot of that is community. And also, I think a lot of it is letting go and accepting that a higher power maybe has the wheel at times and we think we do. There's a lot to it. Faith offers so much to us, well beyond, are you following the rules? There's so much positivity that we can gain from our community at church and our relationship with God, and also checking in with one another, keeping each other accountable. There's a lot to be had there that's good for us. And I think if we don't look at it as rules and we look at it as an opportunity, I think people will really enjoy their faith even more deeply than they maybe did in their younger years.
For any of our viewers watching and maybe they're thinking about faith, they've never really explored about Jesus Christ, and obviously you've got this Blessn app as well. How can those two connect with each other? How can our viewers connect with God through your app Blessn?
Well, yeah, I love that question. So for right now, a lot of our users are posting content like their scripture of the day or what's on their mind, what they're grateful for, praying. Some people are being, a little more in your face, like, have you taken time out for God today?
Yeah.
So I think all those messages can impact your mindset for the day. So if you start your day with that rather than something else on your phone, you're going to start your day off really well. And you're going to be thinking about the right things. But also we're about to add a prayer of the day feature for the morning time and evening time. So if you haven't had the opportunity to sit down and pray with family or friends, you will have the opportunity to do it with us every morning and every evening.
For any of our viewers who are watching today and maybe going through some difficult times in their own lives, are there any examples of difficulties that you experienced in your own personal life and how you're able to overcome them through God and through Jesus Christ?
Yes, I think for myself, one of the darker days, it's one of the darker days of anybody's life is when they lose a parent. So when in my younger years I lost my father, it kind of sends a young man reeling. You're a little rudderless after that happens to you. So I think if you're in a situation where you're feeling rudderless, that is exactly the moment you should be leaning on God. And that's exactly the moment you should be spending more time in prayer and more time in communion. That will help you not focus on maybe the pity party that you're instinctually going to want to jump into. And that could be after any harsh moment in life, because life offers a lot of harsh moments.
Kevin, you lost your dad at a very young age. How old were you and how did you overcome that?
I was a very immature young man in my 20s. And I think I knew it was inevitable, of course, but when the day comes, you're just not ready for it. So It doesn't even matter if you know it's coming sooner rather than later. It's just it's a punch to the mouth. It's a kick to the gut. Anybody who's been through it knows that you have a mourning period that you really can't fast forward through. But it is also, I think, inevitably a turning point in most people's lives where they make new decisions. So for me, that was a time to grow up a little bit. It was a time to really secure my walk with God and really focus on what's important. So it was a terrible, terrible moment, but also it turned out to be something that was very good for me in the long run.
Kevin, tell us about your dad you lost in your 20s. What was your dad like and how much of an influence did he have over your life?
Oh, he was a great guy. He was very accomplished. He was a pilot. He was in the government, pretty high ranking at one point. But also, he was older when I was born. He was in his late 50s. So he had almost kind of a grandfatherly approach to parenting.
Yeah.
Kind of a softer, gentler.
Ah.
So he was just a sweet man, I think we soften as we age.
Finally, Kevin, for anyone going through struggles in their own personal life, what message of hope can we give our viewers today?
I love that. Well, I would say definitely be mindful of what you're putting into your mind every day, because it will affect your attitude all day long, and it could lead to temptation if you're in a dark place. So choose consciously what you're putting into your mind every single day, and also who you're spending time with. It will have a bigger impact on your life than you would expect it to.
I want to say thank you to Kevin Clark, Emmy Award winning writer, director, producer, and co-founder of the Blessn app. Thank you so much for joining us. Take care, brother.
Take care, brother. Thank you.